Greetings and welcome to another lecture in statistics. Now, this is the second lecture for the chi-square test. Please make sure that you have watched and taken notes on the first lecture before you watch this one. Because what we're going to do at this point is we're going to jump right into the formulas without telling you how to find the numbers to put in the formula. That's in the first lecture. So please make sure that you have watched that and taken notes on it and you're ready to go. With that, and not much more ado, let's go with the formula. Now the formula, notice that weird looking X? That's actually not an X, that's a chi, C-H-I, Greek letter. And it's squared, so it's the chi-squared. It's equivalent to the sum of the observed frequency for each cell of the table. That's what you found. Minus the expected frequency. That is what you use math to find given the marginal values of that table. Square that difference, and then it's divided by the expected frequency for that cell. That's the formula. It did take a bit of work to get here to find the expected frequency, but once you found the expected frequency, you know, it seems a lot simpler than a lot of these other formulas have been. So let me give you the step-by-step. The first step we've already done. Find the observed and the expected frequency for each cell. Make sure that you keep these straight. Okay? You don't want to confuse them. That's the one place where you could really make mistakes. So be very careful, be very methodical when you do this. Next, once you've found the observed and the expected frequency, find the difference between them. Subtract one from the other. Doesn't matter which you subtract from which, because of course you're going to square it, which means it's going to be a positive number anyway. So you might want to just always subtract the expected from the observed, just to make sure that you're following the same pattern so it doesn't get too confusing. Square the difference. Divide each difference by the expected frequency for that cell. Okay, and then add them all up. So yeah, as formulas go, this one is relatively simple. And it is kind of amusing because think if you'd have seen that like on the first day, how it might have freaked you out. And now you're like, oh, that's easy. That's progress. So here's where I did it. For each, and when you do this on a test, you're probably going to want to make sure that you label which cell you're talking about. I just did them all in order and put them on here. So observed minus expected for the first, glass in location 1, we would observed 8, we would expect 10, the difference is 2, we square it, and then we divide it by the expected, which is 10, so we get 0.4. The second one, which I believe is glass for location 2, 23, expected is 20, difference is 3. Squared is 9, divided by the expected, which is 20, we have 0.45, and so forth and so on and on. And then at the very end, you sum all of these up. I actually did this using Excel, so it goes to a lot of decimal places. I will tell you how many decimal places you need to take it to. 4 is a good number. It doesn't get ridiculous, but it tends to reduce rounding error. And you add them all up. So there we go. So we have the total sum, we have the chi-square number. What do we do with that? Well, what do we do with any of these things? You find the degree of freedom and look it up on a chart. That's what we've been doing for the past several chapters. Statistics in a lot of ways is doing the same, on a conceptual level, you're doing the same thing. It's just that because of the different data you have, whether it's 2 groups or 1 group or 3 groups or categories, you're basically just doing a slightly different path to get to the same thing, and for here as well. So we need to find the degree of freedom. Okay? And for the degrees of freedom here, it's the number of rows minus 1 times the number of columns minus 1. You've got rows, you've got columns. Number of rows minus 1 multiplied by the number of columns, minus 1. So we have 4 rows and 3 columns. With 4 rows and 3 columns, we have 4 minus 1 times 3 minus 1 is 3 times 2 equals 6. So that is the degree of freedom. You find the chart, which has been uploaded and will of course be attached to the formula sheet when you're taking your test. For alpha equals 0.05, the critical value for chi-square is 12.592. So with our chi-square number being 5.0569, this is less extreme than the critical value, therefore it is not significant. You interpret it the exact same way that we have for the z-tests and the t-tests and the f-tests. And I mean, is it more extreme than our critical value? If it is, then it's significant, and there is indeed, one variable does indeed, in this case, have an effect. Well, the variables are affected together. They alter together. There's some connection. We don't know what the connection is, but there is some connection. Because remember, even if it does show an association, it doesn't really show how strong it is, and it doesn't show you what the association is. It simply says that they vary together. And that's the best that we can hope for. It's the best that we can hope for in terms of looking at things in descriptive research or correlational research. All we can really look at is whether or not when one changes, the other changes. Maybe they do it in different ways, so it shows they're an association, but we don't know what that association is. We don't know what it is. Could be A causes B, could be B causes A, could be both A and B are caused by C when the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligns with Mars. We don't know. All we know is that they vary together. That's chi-square. Now, as usual, since we are now doing online lectures, your homework are the questions in the back of the book, or back of the chapter, I should say. Make sure, as before, that you do all the questions and then email me your work so that I am able to see how you did and be able to look, and that's going to count for your attendance, is basically your homework. So make sure you do all of them. Double check your answers. I uploaded the answers as well if you don't have your text, and then just email them to me, and you'll be done with that homework and you'll be ready for the test. But of course, chapter 12 comes first.